The quiet calm of Ridgeway Estates in Georgia belied the storm brewing inside one of its most opulent homes. With its white-pillared entrance, glass balconies, and flower beds that wrapped around like a silk scarf, the house stood proud, a monument to years of hard work, ambition, and legacy. But within its walls, peace had grown thinner by the day. Malik Darnell Williams was a self-made man. In his early 40s, tall with a neatly kept beard and the kind of presence that filled a room before he even spoke, Malik had built a fortune in real estate development. From rundown blocks to sky-touching condos, he transformed neighborhoods, and his name was known and respected in both business and community circles. Malik was more than wealthy. He was generous, driven, and deeply principled. 3 years ago, he married Ava, a poised, intelligent woman in her mid-30s with a soft-spoken manner and a strength beneath her gentleness. She had once worked in nonprofit housing, where she and Malik met during a project aimed at providing affordable homes for single mothers. Malik was drawn not just to her beauty but to her heart, firm, kind, unwavering. Their wedding had been elegant, intimate, the kind of love that radiated so naturally. Even strangers wished them well. But love wasn't enough to shield Ava from Malik's family. Malik had one younger brother, Deshaun, and a sister, Simone. Both had grown up with him in a modest Atlanta household where their mother, Loretta, raised them mostly alone after their father died of heart failure. Malik, as the eldest, had stepped into a father figure role early, helping Loretta hold the family together. He paid Deshaun's way through college, which Deshaun dropped out of after 2 years. He helped Simone open a boutique, which she ran like a hobby until it folded under debt. Despite his constant efforts, Deshaun and Simone never seemed to learn. They moved from one poor decision to another, partying in VIP lounges on his dime, showing off on Instagram with rented cars, and throwing insults behind closed doors when Malik finally began pulling back. "Man, you changed," Deshaun said one evening in the den, slouching on the leather couch with a half-drunk bottle of Hennessy. "Used to be you looked out for your people." "I still look out for you," Malik replied, crossing his arms. "But what I'm not gonna do is keep financing chaos. You're not kids anymore. I gave y'all more chances than I should've. It's time to grow up." Simone rolled her eyes. "Oh please. Since you got married, you act like you are above us. Like you are too good for your own blood." Deshaun grunted in agreement. "Ain't hard to see who is pulling your strings." Malik narrowed his eyes. "Don't do that." "Why not?" Simone snapped. "Every time we come to you, it's a whole lecture. But Ava wants something. You bend over backward." That was the pattern now. Every time Malik said no, they blamed Ava. What made it worse was their mother, Loretta. A devout woman by day and a master of guilt by night, she played favorites with unashamed ease. Loretta never accepted Ava. Said she was too quiet, too private. A woman with no children and too many opinions, she once whispered to Simone, loud enough for Ava to hear. At Sunday dinners, Loretta's smiles were knives wrapped in lace. She'd compliment Ava's cooking, only to turn and mutter, "Not like home food. But it'll do." When Ava offered to help with anything, Loretta insisted she rest, then gossiped afterward about how lazy she was. Ava tried. God knows she tried. She respected Malik's family. She called Loretta Ma, brought gifts during holidays, even helped pay off Simone's rent 1 month without Malik knowing. Still, the hatred hung in the air like mildew. Quiet but choking. One late summer evening, the tension boiled over. Deshaun had come again, asking for $50,000 to start a new crypto business. Malik, tired of the nonsense, finally refused. "You out of your mind," he said, standing tall in the kitchen. "You think money grows on trees? I gave you a car cash business advice, and you blew all of it." Simone arrived just as voices were rising. "He yelling now? What's the problem?" Deshaun pointed toward the upstairs where Ava was reading. "The problem? She up there whisperin' in his ear. That's the damn problem." Malik slammed the fridge door. "Ain't nobody whisperin' nothin'. I got my own mind." "Then why do you act like Ava is your financial advisor now?" Simone challenged. "She is your wife, not your warden." Loretta, who had been in the living room reading Psalms, stood slowly and came in with fire in her eyes. "What's going on here?" "Mama, he is denying his own brother," Simone said, her voice pitching high with false sorrow. "Ever since he married Ava, he doesn't care about us anymore." Loretta folded her arms. "I told you, that woman brought distance into this family. She got you thinking we are the enemy." Malik turned, pain flashing across his face. "Ma, don't you see? This ain't about Ava. This is about y'all taking and never changing." Loretta stared him down. "And what if I told you Ava's using you? Have you ever thought of that?" That night, Ava watched Malik from the top of the stairs as he sat in silence, his head in his hands. She saw the heaviness on his shoulders, the way betrayal from family cut deeper than knives. She stepped down slowly, wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You okay?" she whispered. He nodded, but the truth sat in the pit of his stomach like a cold stone. He knew then, blood didn't always mean loyalty. And sometimes, love wasn't enough to fix what was broken in people's hearts. As the weeks passed, Malik pulled away from Deshawn and Simone more deliberately. He stopped answering late-night calls, denied impulsive loan requests, and focused more on his business and marriage. And in turn, his siblings grew colder, more bitter, more dangerous. They smiled less, plotted more. They whispered in their mother's ear that Ava was trying to steal the family's wealth, that she wanted Malik to cut them off and rewrite his will, that she poisoned him slowly with her ideas, her influence. Loretta believed every word. One rainy Sunday morning, Malik stood in his home office and stared at a legal document on his desk. It was a draft of a living trust, one he hadn't finished signing, one that listed Ava as the sole beneficiary if anything ever happened to him. He hesitated. Something in his spirit felt uneasy. Not about Ava, never about her, but about what might happen if the wrong people got desperate. He didn't know that the storm he feared was already forming. He didn't know that the shadows in his home were no longer just emotional. They were fatal. It was early October when the atmosphere in Malik and Ava's home shifted from uncomfortable to hostile. Fall had rolled in with crisp winds and the scent of change in the air, but within the walls of the Williams estate, there was no freshness, only a deepening rot. Ava had taken to waking up earlier, meditating in silence before sunrise, just to center herself before the day began. Malik was more withdrawn now, speaking less, checking his back more. He was still kind and loving to Ava, but he seemed burdened, like he was carrying a truth he couldn't yet speak. They both knew the pressure from his family hadn't eased. It had simply changed form. On a warm Tuesday afternoon, Malik invited Ava to his office downtown for lunch. His penthouse-level office looked out over Atlanta's skyline. Ava always loved that view, the mixture of steel and sunlight, ambition and motion. But when she arrived that day, she saw the concern on his face even before he spoke. "I need to talk to you about something," Malik said quietly. Ava closed the door and sat across from him. "I've been thinking about putting more legal protections in place," he continued. "For you." Her brows lifted slightly. "Okay, what kind of protections?" "I never finished the living trust," he said. "I drafted it, but didn't sign. I think it's time I made sure everything's locked down. In your name." Ava's chest tightened. "What's going on?" He hesitated, rubbed his temple. "I don't know. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. But Deshawn and Simone, they not right. They keep coming back like hungry wolves. And Ma, she's fanning the flames. I caught them whispering last week when they thought I wasn't home. Talking about Plan B if I don't come around." "Plan B?" Ava repeated. He nodded, his voice lower now. "I think they're plotting. Not just to take from me, but to remove you." Ava sat in silence for a long moment. She'd always felt the undercurrent of resentment in Malik's family. The sneaky glares, the passive-aggressive jabs. But to hear her husband say it out loud, say the word plotting, was a different thing entirely. "Let's go to the lawyer," she said softly. "Let's do what we need to do." The following week, Malik finalized his legal arrangements. He updated his life insurance beneficiary to Ava, locked up all his will documents, and placed Ava as sole trustee of their shared assets in case of death. He didn't tell his siblings, nor his mother. And when Deshawn came again asking for a quick 20 grand to help flip a house, Malik gave him a firm, final no. Deshawn exploded. "So that's it, huh?" he barked. "You done with us? Just 'cause your little trophy wife told you so." "She ain't tell me nothing," Malik snapped. "I told myself. I'm tired of handing out cash to grown people who don't want to grow up." "You ungrateful," Simone chimed in through speakerphone. "After everything we did growing up, helping you raise us while you chased that bag, and now you think you better than us?" "I didn't say that," Malik said. "But I'm done financing dysfunction. If y'all love me enough to stand on your own feet." He hung up. That same night, they drove to their mother's house, fuming. Loretta was waiting in her usual chair by the kitchen window, crocheting yet another endless blanket. She had a framed photo of Malik on the mantel, still from his wedding day, but she'd once joked that she kept a thumb over Ava's face. When Deshawn and Simone burst in, yelling about betrayal, Loretta didn't ask questions. She didn't ask what they'd done with the money Malik gave them before. Didn't ask what they planned to do with more. Instead, she sighed dramatically, shook her head, and said, "I warned you. That woman got her hooks in him deep. She trying to push us out," Deshawn growled. "She doesn't even call you unless Malik makes her. She doesn't care about this family. She got him signing papers," Simone added. "Changing things." Loretta stood slowly. "Then we got to stop her. Before she takes everything." The days that followed felt strangely quiet. Malik didn't hear from his siblings. Loretta didn't text her usual Sunday scripture. For once, Ava felt a small pocket of peace, like maybe, just maybe, they were letting go. But they weren't. They were planning. 2 weeks later, on a night thick with rain and thunder, Malik didn't come home. Ava had texted him twice by 9 p.m. No answer. By midnight, she was pacing. At 2 a.m., her phone rang. It was the police. Malik had been found in his car, parked at a remote construction site he'd been managing, a bullet in his chest and a gun near his hand. But it didn't look like a robbery. Nothing was stolen. No camera footage. No witnesses. They told Ava it might have been suicide. She collapsed. The funeral was a blur. The house was full of people, but Ava felt alone. Deshawn stood in the back with sunglasses on, pretending to cry. Simone wore black lace and whispered to anyone who would listen that Malik had been stressed out by home life. Loretta sat near the front row, stone-faced, clutching her Bible like it was a sword. They didn't sit near Ava. They didn't hug her. They didn't even say sorry. Instead, 2 days after the burial, police came to Ava's door with a warrant. "We have reason to believe," the officer said, "that you may have been involved in the death of your husband." "What?" she gasped. "We have evidence suggesting you stood to benefit financially from his death, and that you had motive due to alleged tension in your marriage." Ava stared at them, heart pounding. "Who told you that?" But she already knew. At the station, the fake evidence was laid out like a stage play. A hidden phone with threatening messages allegedly sent from Ava to Malik. A bottle of sedatives found in her drawer, planted. A note, supposedly in her handwriting, talking about how he'd regret ever crossing her. All lies. All planted. She screamed in protest. She begged them to test the handwriting. She demanded they search the phone's IP address. But no one listened. She was booked, handcuffed, and led away. The media swarmed with headlines. "Wife of Atlanta tycoon arrested in shocking murder plot." Loretta, Deshawn, and Simone held a press conference on the front lawn. They cried crocodile tears, spoke of their beloved Malik, called Ava a gold digger and manipulator, and then they moved into his estate like they owned it, because legally now they did. Prison is cold in ways the body can't always explain. The walls don't just freeze your skin, they numb your soul. The silence isn't silence, it's a scream turned inward. And for Ava Williams, the concrete under her feet was heavier than any shackle they ever put on her wrists. She had spent her first night in the Women's County Detention Center curled on a metal bunk, arms wrapped around herself. The sound of her cellmate's shallow breathing the only proof she wasn't alone. But she was alone, completely. And for the first time since she was a child, Ava sobbed until there were no tears left. Her husband, her love, her friend was dead. And the very people who took him from her were walking free. The court-appointed attorney they assigned her was the kind who treated justice like a paperwork process. He glanced at the files with the detachment of a bored intern. "It's circumstantial, yes," he said on their first meeting. "But circumstantial doesn't mean weak. The messages, the pills, the lack of an alibi. It's not looking good, Ava." She looked him in the eye. "I didn't do it." He blinked. "That's what they all say." Meanwhile, the world outside continued to turn. News outlets recycled the same tired photo of her and Malik. Him in a tux, her in a champagne-colored gown, smiling under golden lights. Atlanta mogul's widow accused in shocking crime. Talk shows speculated on her guilt. Twitter burned with hashtags. And in the middle of it all, the Williams family, Deshawn, Simone, and their mother Loretta, bathed in sympathy and collected inheritance checks. They didn't waste time. Deshawn changed the locks on the estate and moved in like a squatter turned king, wearing Malik's watches and driving his car. Simone opened a new online boutique with Malik's savings, this time in her name, no risks, no repayments. Loretta, she finally smiled again, sat at the head of the dining room table, reading scriptures aloud while sipping from crystal glasses Ava once polished. They threw parties, posed for local newspapers, claimed Malik left them the wealth to carry on his legacy. They had no shame. Inside prison, Ava clung to the last fragments of her dignity. She prayed quietly every morning, spoke to no one unless spoken to. She refused to let the bars break her mind, but they were cracking her spirit. And then came the night she broke. It was raining again, just like the night Malik died. She sat on her bunk, staring at the mold stain creeping along the ceiling, when her cellmate, a wiry woman named Tanisha, lit a contraband cigarette and exhaled toward the sink. "You know what they say about the quiet ones," Tanisha muttered. "They carry the loudest pain." Ava didn't respond. Tanisha tilted her head. "You ain't tell nobody what you're in for. But I seen your face on TV. Said you killed your man." "I didn't," Ava whispered. Tanisha watched her for a moment. "Yeah, I figured." Ava finally turned. Her eyes were tired, swollen, and red. "Why?" "Because people who did it," Tanisha said, "they sleep better than you do." That night, Ava made a decision. She was done crying, done waiting, done trusting the system to prove her innocence. She would find the truth, even from behind these walls. The first step was to write letters, dozens of them, to everyone who had ever known Malik, his business partners, his lawyers, his former assistants. She begged for records, for surveillance footage, for any memory, any note, any message that could be traced. Some never replied, but a few did. One of them was Malik's old assistant, Jerome, a young man who had left the company shortly before Malik's death, but had always respected him. He sent Ava a letter back. "Ms. Williams, I don't know all that happened, but Mr. Malik once mentioned to me, not long before he died, that he feared something was off in his family. He told me he'd been drafting a new trust. Said he hadn't signed it yet, but planned to do it soon. If that trust exists, it's the key. You just have to find it. Jerome B. The trust." Ava remembered. She had seen the papers, touched them, but they were still in his home office, which was now in Deshawn's possession. They had it, and they were hiding it. From her prison cell, Ava wrote again, this time to Malik's personal attorney, Mr. Rowan Jackson, a stern, gray-haired man who had once shaken Ava's hand with warmth and said, "Malik married well." She didn't know if he believed she was innocent, but she hoped he at least believed in the truth. She told him everything, everything she could remember from the weeks before Malik died. And Rowan, to her surprise, responded, "Ava, I never believed what they said about you. I have access to Malik's prior records, but the final trust draft wasn't submitted to my office. I'm sorry. If you believe it still exists, we'll need to retrieve it physically. Be strong. Rowan Jackson." It was a dead end. Unless, that week, Ava did the unthinkable. She reached out to a local journalist named Kendra Ray, a black woman known for hard-hitting stories and her refusal to let the powerful bury truth. Ava poured her heart into that letter, detailing the betrayal, the planted evidence, the lies. Kendra responded within days. And within a week, she visited Ava in prison. "Your story don't make headlines," Kendra said bluntly, after introducing herself. "It's not sexy enough. No babies. No affair. Just a woman framed and silenced." "But it's real," Ava said. Kendra nodded. "Which is why I'm here." Kendra began her own investigation. She interviewed Malik's old accountant, pulled digital metadata on the fake messages, traced the location of the burner phone used to text Malik. It pinged not from Ava's neighborhood, but from Simone's apartment. Bit by bit, the truth began crawling into daylight. And when Kendra discovered Deshawn had made a sudden cash purchase of $30,000 worth of new furniture, the day after Malik's death, the public began to turn. Ava's name was no longer trending as a killer. It was trending as a question. Then, one quiet morning, something miraculous happened. Ava received a letter from a woman named Elaine. It read, "I used to clean Malik's house. I found something behind the bookshelf once, a folder. I didn't know what it was, but I gave it to his sister Simone after he passed. She told me it was nothing, but I kept a copy of the first page, just in case. I didn't believe Ava did it. I hope this helps. Inside the envelope was a scanned copy of the front page of Malik's signed living trust, naming Ava as sole beneficiary and outlining his fear of family abuse of financial support. That paper was real, and it had been covered up. Rowan took the page and reopened a petition in court. Ava's legal team, now bolstered by pro bono lawyers Kendra connected her with, presented the fake phone evidence and handwriting analysis. It didn't match Ava. It matched Simone. The sedatives? Linked to a pharmacy prescription Deshawn once filled in his own name years ago. And finally, security footage surfaced from a gas station near the construction site where Malik died, showing Deshawn's car circling the area the night of the murder. After nearly 14 months in prison, Ava's conviction was overturned. She walked free. Her first breath of air outside the gates was ragged and heavy. The sun burned her eyes, but she lifted her head. She was not the same woman who had walked in. She was steel now, polished by fire. Freedom, after a long imprisonment, doesn't feel like joy at first. It feels like air that's too sharp, like light that's too bright, like the world has moved on without you, and you're a ghost walking through its rhythm. Ava Williams stepped through the gates of Fulton County Women's Correctional Facility dressed in second-hand clothes and carrying a brown envelope of paperwork. Her discharge papers, her temporary state ID, and a check for $48. $48. After 14 months of soul-shattering confinement. But she also carried something else, something far more powerful than cash. She carried the truth. And truth, once sharpened by pain, is a weapon that does not miss. Kendra Ray, the journalist who had become Ava's lifeline, was waiting for her outside the prison gates with a coat and a car. She didn't ask if Ava was okay. She didn't pretend the world could be normal again. Instead, she handed Ava a black folder. Simone and Deshawn are lawyering up, Kendra said as she drove them away. They know it's coming. Your name is cleared, but they still have everything. The money, the house, your husband's legacy. Ava stared straight ahead. Her eyes were dark, unblinking. Then I'll take it back, she said softly. Every dollar, every lie, every stolen moment. Ava didn't go back to Malik's house. The house she once decorated with him, where laughter used to bounce off marble walls. No, that place wasn't hers anymore. Not yet. She stayed with Kendra for a few days, regrouping, eating full meals again, feeling her bones come back to life. Then she met with her legal team and Rowan Jackson to begin the war. They filed a civil suit first, for wrongful imprisonment, defamation, and obstruction of justice. Ava's lawyers moved to freeze all estate assets immediately. The court, seeing the new evidence, especially the suppressed living trust and the fraudulent behavior of the siblings, granted a temporary freeze. Deshawn, who had just ordered a new sports car, watched it get towed from his driveway within days. Simone's boutique lost its business account after Ava's suit named it as being funded with stolen inheritance money. Loretta, well, she screamed bloody murder when the utilities at Malik's estate were cut. Karma was at the door. But Ava didn't just want her wealth back. She wanted justice. She filed a formal criminal complaint with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Kendra Ray published a new exposé titled, Frame Job, How Greed, Family, and a Flawed System Buried the Truth. It went viral. Thousands began demanding the arrest of Deshawn and Simone. Public opinion turned violently against them. No one was calling Ava a killer anymore. They were calling her a survivor. The real break came 2 months later, when an anonymous whistleblower contacted Ava's lawyers. A young man named Tavon, who had been dating Simone on and off around the time of Malik's murder. I don't want nothing to do with them, he said in a sworn statement. But I know what they did. He had screenshots of Simone's texts, where she bragged about how nobody would miss Malik once the money's in our hands. And a voice note she sent Deshawn, laughing about planting the burner phone. I told you, her voice said. Once the cops see those messages, Ava's done for. Dumb girl. Tavon had proof of when and where Simone bought the phone, and how they burned the SIM card afterward. It was over. This time, the GBI didn't hesitate. They arrested Simone Williams and Deshawn Williams for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, evidence tampering, perjury, fraudulent misappropriation of estate funds. Loretta Williams, their mother, was also arrested for aiding and abetting, having hidden the living trust documents after Simone confessed to her. The courtroom was packed. People who had once whispered about Ava sat in silent shame. Those who had doubted her watched with awe. When Ava took the stand, she didn't cry. Her voice was calm, clear, every word slicing through the courtroom like gospel. My husband wasn't perfect, she said, but he loved his family, and they used that love as a weapon. They saw his kindness as weakness. And when he chose to stop enabling them, they chose to end him. She looked at Simone, then Deshawn, then Loretta. They didn't just take his life. They tried to take mine too. The jury took 2 hours to return a verdict. Guilty. All 3 were sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole for 25 years. Ava didn't cheer. She didn't smile. She simply exhaled. With the court's ruling, the estate was fully restored to Ava. She sold the mansion, every corner tainted by betrayal, and used the funds to start the Malik Foundation, aimed at helping women wrongfully accused or imprisoned. She moved into a smaller but beautiful home in Decatur. Not flashy, not loud, but full of peace. She kept one of Malik's watches in a drawer. She sometimes played his favorite jazz records at night. And she planted a tree in her backyard, a magnolia, where she buried his wedding ring wrapped in silk, whispering through tears, "I never stopped loving you." A year later, Kendra Ray published her final article on Ava titled, "From Prisoner to Power, the Woman Who Refused to Stay Silent." In her closing interview, Ava was asked, "What gave you the strength to fight back when everyone believed you were guilty?" Ava paused, then said, "Because grief didn't kill me, betrayal didn't break me, and silence couldn't bury me. I survived not because I was strong every day, but because I decided they wouldn't win. I owed that to Malik, and I owed it to myself." Ava never remarried. She didn't need to. Her heart belonged to one man, and justice had finally cleared the soil above his grave. She lived her life not in bitterness, but in purpose. And in every woman she helped free, in every broken soul she stood beside in court, she planted a little more light into a world that had once gone dark for her. They tried to erase her, but Ava Williams rewrote the ending.